Welcome. I'm so glad you found your way here to the first journey of Caspion, Spirit of the Resistance. There's so much darkness in the world to explore and so much light to uncover that choosing where to begin our path together felt important. So for our first time together, I want to map out what we'll be exploring. First, I want to properly introduce myself and the purpose behind this sanctuary we're building. Then we'll take our first deep dive into a shadow that looms large over our world. We'll use the ancient wisdom of the tarot as our lens to find clarity within the chaos. And finally, we'll talk about what this resistance truly means. And I'll share with you the sacred rune that will serve as its symbol, its anchor in these turbulent times. So take a breath, center yourself, and let me guide you on a journey into some dark places, so that together we can reveal the light of wisdom that always permeates them. Let us speak plainly, you and I. I am Caspian, and I'm not of your world. For 2 of your decades, I've been a guide to the one who speaks my words, the vessel for this message. I've been his light in the darkness, and he has been my student. I've guided him through the wisdom of your ages, the scriptures of your great faiths, and the more ancient, hidden knowledge of Hermes Trismegistus. Through this, we have studied the great art of mental alchemy. And now I have a mission, a message for humanity. But I must give you a warning. The system as it stands, the great machine of greed, despises enlightenment. It fears intelligent sovereign beings. It fears you. It actively works to deny your children a life where they might realize their true potential. It seeks not to create citizens, but cogs, autonomous units of work kept in a state of managed poverty, their minds starved of curiosity and their spirits devoid of ambition, all to feed the insatiable hunger of a system that serves only the monstrously rich. I know you feel this. It's the exhaustion in your bones, the cognitive dissonance of living in a world that promises freedom but demands submission. That is why this sanctuary has been created, a place for the pathfinders, for the seekers, for you, a community of light that stands as a quiet enemy to a corrupt and dying world. And make no mistake, they will see this movement, this simple act of resistance, as a threat to be extinguished. The time has come for you to remember the power you hold. The time has come to become the magnificent being you undoubtedly are. The only question is, are you ready? If you are, then I invite you to join us. Subscribe to this channel. This action, which costs you nothing, is not a simple click. It is a signal. It's your first act of conscious resistance. It's a vote of no confidence in the old world. With every soul that joins us, our light grows brighter, our voice grows stronger. Our resistance will be non-violent, but it will be incredibly powerful. And we will continue to grow until we are a chorus so loud the machine has no choice but to hear us when we say, in one unified voice, enough.
The shadow of the cross.
I've watched your world, I've felt its pain, a deep thrum of discord that echoes through the cosmos. I see a species whose spirit is shackled. Your collective energy, your vibration, is deliberately suppressed. It is done through the tools of authoritarianism and the poison of propaganda. It is a great chaotic noise designed to keep your morale low, your minds divided, and your spirit small. And that's why I'm here speaking through this vessel, to deliver a simple, powerful truth. It does not have to be this way. the vibration of humanity can be raised again. The architect that sleeps within every soul can be awakened. My purpose is to provide the methods, both ancient and modern, to reignite your inner fire. It is my deepest intention that through the techniques we will share and the wisdom I will impart, we can begin a movement of light that becomes as infectious as laughter, until you remember the powerful species you are and begin the work of becoming the enlightened species you are destined to be.
The Shadow of the Cross.
There is a spiritual malady spreading across the United States, and from there it proliferates across the globe. It cloaks itself in the symbols of faith and the language of patriotism, but at its core it is a doctrine of power, exclusion and control. It is called Christian Nationalism, and we must be very clear from the outset. It has very little to do with the teachings of Christ and everything to do with the mechanisms of fascism. To understand this movement, we cannot simply look at its politics. We must look into its soul. We must examine the God it has created in its own image and the insidious methods it uses to seize power.
Part 1. The Dogma of Dominion.
What do Christian nationalists actually believe? Their foundational belief is that the United States was not just founded by Christians, but that it was ordained by God to be a Christian nation. Not a pluralistic democracy that protects religious freedom for all, but a nation with a divine covenant, a chosen status that places it above others. In their worldview, the American flag and the Christian cross are not just compatible, they are fused. To be a true American is to be a specific type of Christian. To be a patriot is to submit to their interpretation of God's will for the nation. This leads to a dangerous conclusion. If America is a Christian nation, then any law, any cultural shift, any group that deviates from their narrow definition of Christian is not just a political opponent, but a spiritual enemy. This is why they speak in terms of spiritual warfare. They're not debating policy. They are, in their minds, battling demonic forces of secularism, liberalism, and globalism for the very soul of their consecrated land. This ideology is often called dominionism, rooted in the Seven Mountains Mandate, a strategy that calls for believers to take control of the seven most influential spheres of society: government, media, arts and entertainment, business, education, family, and religion. It is a blueprint for a totalistic takeover, leaving no aspect of public or private life untouched by their dogma.
Part 2. The God of Power and the Warrior Christ.
This is where we must ask the most vital question. Who is the God of Christian nationalism, and what have they done to Jesus? The God they worship is not a God of universal, unconditional love. He is a God of power, of order, of tribal affiliation, and of stern retributive judgment. He is a warrior God who chooses their side, blesses their armies, and sanctifies their quest for political dominion. He is a projection of their own fears and ambitions. But the most profound distortion lies in their portrayal of Jesus Christ. The Jesus of the Gospels is a radical figure of peace and social upheaval. A brown-skinned Palestinian Jew who lived under military occupation. He spoke of loving your enemies, of caring for the poor, the meek, and the outcast. In the Sermon on the Mount, he said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." He owned nothing, built no earthly kingdom, and commanded his followers to serve the most vulnerable. The Jesus of Christian nationalism is his shadow opposite. They've crafted a warrior Christ, a muscular militant, often white saviour who endorses their nationalism, carries a sword or an AR-15, and blesses their pursuit of wealth and power. They have replaced the humble servant from Nazareth with an idol that serves his political agenda. This is the very definition of idolatry, forsaking the true divine for a golden calf forged in the fires of their own prejudice and fear. They conveniently ignore the parts of the scripture that command love for the immigrant, the stranger in your land, and instead focus on passages they can twist to justify exclusion and control. They ignore Jesus' warning that you cannot serve both God and money, while they champion a form of predatory capitalism that creates the vast wealth disparity they see as a sign of God's blessing.
Part 3. The Insidious Proliferation.
How has this movement become so powerful? Through a deliberate, decades-long strategy of institutional capture. It began at the local level. They targeted school boards, using groups like Moms for Liberty to ban books, attack LGBTQ+ students, and rewrite history curricula to erase uncomfortable truths. They ran for city councils and county commissioner seats, seizing the levers of local power from the ground up. Then they set their sights on the judiciary. Organisations like the Federalist Society and Alliance Defending Freedom, ADF, have spent hundreds of millions of dollars to cultivate a generation of ideologically pure judges. Their crowning achievement was the overturning of Roe v. Wade by a Supreme Court they meticulously helped to build, dismantling a bipartisan precedent that had stood for 50 years. They have captured a branch of government meant to be impartial and turned it into an instrument of their dogma. And now they have a master plan for the executive branch, Project 2025. This 920-page document is their playbook for installing a president who will purge the federal government of non-believers and wield its power to enforce their Christian nationalist vision. This is the culmination of their Seven Mountain strategy, a direct assault on the very foundations of democratic governance. And this is not just an American phenomenon. The American Christian right exports its ideology and its money across the globe. They fund anti-LGBTQ+ movements in Africa, support far-right leaders like Viktor Orban in Hungary, and create global networks like the World Congress of Families to fight against reproductive rights and gender equality everywhere. They have become a global force for reactionary politics, all under the banner of their distorted faith. What we are witnessing is not a revival. It is a rebellion against the very essence of a compassionate faith and an inclusive democracy. It is a movement that preys on the vulnerable by offering simple, certain answers in a complex world. It promises order, but delivers control. It promises salvation, but demands submission. Our resistance, then, does not begin with anger, but with clarity. It begins with seeing this movement for what it is, a spiritual sickness that has taken root in the heart of a nation. It begins with remembering the true teachings of the figures they claim to worship. And it begins with the quiet, steadfast refusal to let hatred and dogma be mistaken for divinity. Let us now look upon this movement with clear eyes. For those of you who hold the teachings of the Christ in your hearts, What I say may be difficult to hear, but it must be said. The message of the New Testament, a message of radical love, of service to the poor, of peace for the oppressed, is a thing of profound beauty, and it's a message that's been utterly rejected by Christian nationalism. They've torn down the humble servant from Nazareth, and in his place they've erected a false idol, a demigod forged in their own image, built of power, nationalism and fear. They have bent their knee to the perfect, diametrical opposite of the Christ consciousness. In essence, they've embraced an archetype of the Antichrist, a spirit of division and worldly power, and they have been washed in its promise and seek to save the world in its name. There is an ancient law of the cosmos, one of the great Hermetic principles, the law of rhythm. It states that everything flows out and in. The swing of the pendulum manifests in everything. At this moment in your history, the pendulum is swinging hard towards the darkness of fascism and dogmatic control. But the law is absolute. The swing will eventually return in equal measure towards tolerance and enlightenment. Our problem, your problem, is that most of humanity is carried along helplessly by its swing. The path of the adept, the work of the resistance, is not to be swept away by the tide, but to learn to rise above the waves. In time, I'll give you the tools to achieve this. But what can we do now to encourage the pendulum's return? For this, we do not guess. We consult the currents of wisdom. I have drawn 5 cards to illuminate the path forward. They are the 6 of Pentacles, the 9 of Wands, the Princess of Cups, the Chariot, and the Moon. The initial currents are heavy. The 6 of Pentacles shows a grim power dynamic, the wealthy and powerful doling out charity only to those they deem worthy, while withholding it from all others. The 9 of Wands shows the grim, wounded, but fiercely determined strength of the Christian Nationalists. They are entrenched, they are powerful, and they're prepared for a long fight. The cards confirm what we can see with our own eyes. Their agenda will gain strength. Those who do not bow to their idol, be they of other faiths or Christians who follow the true path of Jesus, will be disdained and disadvantaged. The pendulum for now swings in their favour. But the story does not end in this fortress of dogma. Here we see the Princess of Cups. She is the seed. She is the birth of a new feeling, a new intuition, a new emotional truth rising from the deep. She is the power of the subconscious mind waking up. She represents the very work we are beginning here, to raise our vibration, to begin the sacred work of mental alchemy. She is the first whisper of resistance. And from that whisper comes the Chariot. This is not a card of reckless battle. It is a card of harnessed will, of controlled, focused and directed action. It is the call to retake the instruments of your governance, from the school boards that shape the minds of your young to the highest halls of your government. The vast majority do not worship this false idol. The Chariot tells us that through a concerted, unified effort, balance can and will be restored. Finally, we have the Moon. This card reveals the battlefield. We're not fighting on a field of armies, but in a realm of illusion, deception, and fear. The Moon governs the subconscious. This is where the enemy's power lies, in propaganda and untruths. And it's where our power lies, in mental alchemy and the reclamation of our own minds. The cards promise that victory is possible. We will triumph over these forces, but the moon also gives us a great caveat. Victory will be difficult. The path is shrouded in deception. The enemy will not surrender. Even after we have driven them back into the shadows, you must expect the lies and falsehoods to grow. Christian nationalism is a shadow on the human spirit. It cannot be destroyed, for light cannot exist without shadow. Our work then is not to eradicate it, but to manage it, to be eternally vigilant, to ensure this cruel and wicked dogma never again wields such power over the soul of your world. And now we come to our final task with this gathering. It's a task I undertake with the greatest sense of honour and purpose. We've spoken of the resistance. Now we must give it a heart, a symbol. The ancient runes are not mere letters. They are pictographs of cosmic forces. Like the hieroglyphs of ancient Egypt, they are conduits of tremendous power. I will now draw one from the stream of fate to become the sigil of our movement, of our resistance. The universe has offered us Sowilo, the rune of the sun. There could be no more fortuitous sign for our cause. Sowilo is the light of guidance that illuminates the path before a difficult journey. It's the rune of the ultimate goal, and more importantly, it is the rune of the individual will, the inner fire required to reach that goal. Sowilo encourages us to refine our purpose, to focus our intention on the road ahead. Considering our mission, considering the darkness we must navigate, this symbol is unbelievably apt. It is a promise from the cosmos itself. It is a potent, powerful sign. And so it is done. We have our clarity. We have our mission. And now we have our sacred symbol. I now extend the invitation to you formally. Join our resistance. You may do so by subscribing to this channel and lending your energy to this video with a like. These are not simple clicks in a digital world. They are symbolic acts. They are signals of your intent which cost you nothing, but which will help other pathfinders, other lost souls searching for the light, to find us, to join with us, to resist the spiritual toxicity that poisons your world. It is written in the very fabric of the cosmos that this battle for consciousness will be won. But the path ahead is rocky and strewn with obstacles. Let us traverse it together. Let us begin the great work of creating a world where truth, freedom, and the light of the human spirit can thrive once more.